Hmm.
Hello, Odie Hawkins.
Hey, Zola, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Listen, I've been thinking about doing something slightly different this this evening, this Monday.
Okay.
Today is Monday, right? Of
Yes,
course, it's
today's
Monday
Monday.
because
It's
we're
Monday.
doing it. And I think I've introduced my latest two books. I'll
Yes, you
mention
have.
this again just in case I missed out the first time. The first new book is called Conversations with Liquor Store Rufus.
Right.
Conversations with Liquor Store Rufus.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
The book, in brief, if I haven't talked about it before, I'll say a little bit about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The photos in the book were taken by none other than Zola Salena-Hawkins.
This is true.
And I like the way she has done this black and white thing. You probably won't be able to see it from this distance.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the story,
There you go. Go ahead.
okay. The story is about a character named Melvin Montaigne Dixon III.
Got enough names. He has enough
Melvin
names.
Montaigne Dixon III. And he's had a very adventurous life. He winds up either being drafted or he winds up volunteering to go to Vietnam. To go into the army. Vietnam came later, but it covers the period of time he was in Vietnam and became a tunnel rat. There's a very interesting part of the Vietnamese War that is going to come out in full at some point in time. But they had small guys, maybe guys my size, who were given the duty assignment to go down into tunnels that the North Vietnamese has built. They started building when the French had controlled Vietnam. They call it Indochina. And he comes out of it almost whole. He has some issues, of course.
Almost whole. Okay, I like
all
when you
kind
do
of
that.
things.
Okay.
I'm covering that post-war period where they had guys in the form of Liquor Store Rufus. They call him Liquor Store Rufus because he panhandles next to a liquor store. So there's a guy over there who's doing panhandling
Yes.
next to the drugstore. They call him Drugstore Rufus.
Gotcha.
So they call him Liquor Store Rufus.
All right.
Anyway, it covers that post-Vietnam time when a lot of these guys came back and couldn't find jobs. They had been wounded. I mean, psychologically or physically. So I'm trying to use Rufus Melvin Montaigne Dixon III
Yes.
as a prototype for one of these kind of people. He winds up being interviewed by a guy named Willie West, who might also be called Odie Hawkins. Odie Hawkins.
Yes, of course.
About what your life has been like since Vietnam. After Vietnam, he became a drug addict because he had been wounded and had to have kind of thing happens to a lot of people who suffer severe injuries and winds up becoming addicted to opioids. That's one part of the thing. There used to be some sort of strange theory that you could cure your opioid addiction by drinking.
Oh.
By
Okay.
drinking.
One bad habit follows by another. Oh, okay. No problem with that idea.
Drink your drug habit away. So of course he becomes addicted to alcohol as well as opioids. So when he's not high and mild away, he's staggering.
Okay.
He, that's the metabolism. He winds up going to San Quentin for crimes committed by himself. Comes out of it and is barely making it, and at the end of the day, well, we find out that he may or may not have been telling Willie West, the writer, a fantastic story.
Hey, why not?
So it'll be up to the reader to judge whether or not this is a true story or not.
Okay, yes.
You had a question.
I think that that is the case often. Even when we met and you told me about living in Ghana for, 3 years and all.
Could have been a lie.
Okay, could have been a lie, but, when we went there and people recognized you and they said, "Oh, Day, you came back." I was like, "Well, yeah. Okay."
I wonder about things like that sometimes when you have people who have imaginations, because I believe that you can almost feel that it is the truth because you tell it, or it's the truth because you think it up.
Well, as you say, sometimes when you say something, then you say, "Well, it could happen that way. It could have happened that way." Yeah. Every day in this life, at this particular time, it's hard to believe that we have 700,000 people or more dead from COVID,
from a virus. I think at some point in the future, you'll look back at this. We won't be alive, but other people will look back at this and say, "Did that really happen?"
Right.
Or I just clamped onto the thought that you have a lot of white people in America, for example, who cannot wrap their heads around the idea of us having been enslaved people. Not that they did it,
right? Not
that they did it, but that their ancestors did it. So it's become very easy to want to shrug off that sense of history.
It didn't happen. If I say it didn't happen.
If we don't acknowledge it, it didn't happen.
Right.
I don't know if there are many black people who think that way, but
well, it's interesting because I don't see anywhere else in the world, any developed countries or undeveloped countries, they love to tell their history. And in the nation tribes and little villages, they tell the history of that village. And it's, maybe an oral history, but they take pride in the good and the bad.
Here's the difference, I believe. I hear you loud and clear. I was thinking about they call him Johnny, and some people they call him Griot. You think about somebody, I lived in a section of Accra, Ghana, called Osu. And there were people who knew the history of Osu from the 17th century. I mean, this is modern day guys who could sit up and drink a beer and talk to you about the history of that area, not the whole country, not the whole city, but the history of Osu from the 17th century.
Wow.
The city, I mean, the neighborhood is right on the coast, so they would talk about, the boats who came in and so forth and so on. The thing is that everyone was proud of having shared that history, proud of knowing something about that history.
Right.
The history of America has been sort of like a thorn in the minds of all of us, of many of us.
We're going to take a Pollyanna view of what is not Pollyanna.
That's one thing, but they just simply wanted to, many people, I'm going to say mostly white historians, started off whitewashing the history from the very beginning. It wasn't anything they were proud of, so they decided to just whitewash it. So we come down to today, and people who have not been paying attention to the sociological picture, the socio-psychological picture, can't figure out how we got to where we are. If you never acknowledge what it was that went wrong at the beginning, and you start off polishing it. You know, you don't say anything about the Chinese help building the railroad from one end of the country to the other. You don't talk about the Indian nations that was swept aside and genocided. You don't talk about the enslavement of Africans or any of that. You don't talk about the mistreatment or abuse of 8 and 9, 10-year-old white kids working in garment factories in New England.
Okay.
Or,
yeah. Child labor laws. Yeah.
I mean, you don't talk about these things. Consequently, they get shuttled off into somebody's dark consciousness. And when you pull the curtain back a little bit to try to set some light there, people say, no, close that. As you know,
that didn't happen.
I'm preaching to the choir, but as you know, this is the state. This is the state as they are now. Critical race theory is nothing really critical about it. It's acknowledgement of it, the truth about it. The South Africans did something that was very interesting under Mandela when they had the reconciliation committees. We saw some of that,
right?
Where they people who had been responsible for doing some of the worst things in the world under apartheid came out and said, "Yeah, I did. I slammed that woman's breast in a desk drawer. We took a man out and put him in a hole and put dynamite up his rectum and blew it up." I mean, all kinds of horrible. I sat there one evening and watched Bishop Desmond Tutu put his head down on his desk and cry.
Yes, well, it's criable. Well, in fact, when you were doing some research, I forgot for what book, and you found that they also, during slavery times, they kidnapped white people and dyed their skin and sold them as slaves.
They did that here. I can't.
Yes, but yeah.
I can't think of what state it was, but the slave dealer. I thought it was a joke when I first read it, but it was validated. The slave dealer got hold of a collection of Irish people who, would have been indentured servants, but they wanted to have slaves.
Right.
So they had these people dyed.
Their skin dyed.
Skin dyed, and sold them as mulattoes. And people wonder, why do they talk the way they talk? So they come from a tribe where they learn English in a strange way, and this is what you get.
Right.
So no, they became Irishmen. Irish for sale. Irish for sale. Irish for sale. How much am I getting for this chap here? Stand up, boy. Stand up, and anyway, story.
Yes.
So
we digressed a bit.
Let's tell the stories. Which brings me to the second book. This is Ghetto Sketches.
Ghetto Sketches.
Yeah, I may have the photos in the story. Of course, have been done by none other than, once again, Zola Salena-Hawkins. You're all over the place, huh?
Sure enough, am. Okay.
The Ghetto Sketches is something that I started writing back in ancient times, 1962. The book was published by this dirty, rotten publishing company called Holloway House. And I say that because they cooked the books like they could have had them in a wok and stir-fried them, because that's how badly the books were cooked. And I'm saying that because I had the opportunity to become friendly with people who did some of the finances, the bookkeepers, and found out that that was practice, par for the course. But anyway, that was the first time the book was published. Later, having retrieved the rights to the book, it was reissued by another publishing company run by a lady named Johnson, who was not quite as much a thief as being inept. And finally, at the end of the day, we went through a process of retrieving all the rights of the books and wound up having it reissued and self-published by Author House. So the reason I mention this and I'm saying something about it now is because I want to read a couple of things from the book to tell you a little bit about what it's about. This is the prologue. Ghetto Sketches was my first protest novel. I'm saying upright, protest novel. As an optimist, I hoped it would be my last, but the history of life in our country prevented that from happening. Ghetto Sketches was originally published by Holloway House Publishing Company in 1972. It was not seriously promoted, but it sold well. I can say this because my in-house sources gave me documented evidence of how well the book was selling. I can't say that my royalties were honest reflections of those sales. Well, I just alluded to that in my...
Yes.
Fast forwarding, Holloway House sold its assets to Kensington Press in the 1990s, including sketches. I petitioned via my unions. I believe in unions.
Amen.
The Authors Guild, the National Writers Union, and the Screenwriters Guild West for reversion of rights for all of my originally published works by Holloway House. I had 17 books published by Holloway House. Somebody asked, well, if you hated the place all that much, why'd you go to them? Well, I would like to suggest that they read the Machiavelli and you find out why you have to do something. 1972, the world was kind of bare for the black writer being published. So I'll leave it go at that. Subsequently, Ghetto Sketches was reissued with a new cover. I felt that some of the circumstances and subject matters in the book were too dated to merit further marketing. Fortunately, it seems Zola Salena-Hawkins and several other lobbyists agreed that I was partially correct, but squashed my any attempt to place the book in retirement. Look, man, it may be an antique, but as you know, antiques gain value with age. We think the sketches fits that category. So, as they say, my protest fell on deaf ears. Ergo, the Ghetto Sketches 2021.
Aha. Yes.
I've put in a sort of a preamble to explain what ghetto means. I think some people might misunderstand what it means. As a matter of fact, we had a conversation the other night on Zoom where several people were asking, why do you say slum ghetto, and it's one word. Well, it's not originally one word, but as I said then and I'll say now, sometimes you can have a slum that is not a ghetto. It's just a downtrodden, mean piece of real estate where people are, just littering the streets and not disposing of garbage properly, and the houses are run down and so forth and so on. Slum. It becomes a ghetto when people are forced to live there. You can move out of a slum. You can move out of a slum to another slum. Or you can move out of a slum to more positive things.
Right.
But if you are forced to live in a ghetto that is a slum, ain't too nice.
Right. Are you going to read a story for us out of that book?
I'm sorry?
Will you read a story? One of the stories?
No, I'm going to do something else.
Oh.
I had these murdered folks in mind.
Oh.
And these are many stories. So what I would like to do this afternoon, right now, is to take a moment or two. The information was gathered from the National Use of Force Data Collection. The FBI created the National Use of Force Data Collection in 2015. in partnership with law enforcement agencies to provide nationwide statistics on law enforcement use of force incidents, murders. Hunter Britton, age 17, location and year, Beaver, Arkansas, 2021. Stanley Howard, 64, Phoenix, Arizona, 2021. Lenille Fraser, 40, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2021. Andre Hill, 47, Columbus, Ohio, 2020. Manuel Ellis, 33, Tacoma, Washington, 2020. Dwante Wright, 20, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2020. Rayshard Brooks, 27, Atlanta, Georgia, 2020. Daniel Prue, 41, Rochester, New York, 2020. George Floyd, 46, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2020. Breonna Taylor, 26, Louisville, Kentucky, 2020. Atatiana Jefferson, 28, Fort Worth, Texas, 2020. Aura Rother, 40, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 2020. Stephon Clark, 22, Sacramento, California, 2018. Botham Jean, 26, Dallas, Texas, 2016. Philando Castillo, 32, Falcon Heights, Minnesota, 2016. Alton Sterling, 37, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 2016. Freddie Gray, 25, Baltimore, Maryland, 2015. Tanisha Fonville, 20, Charlotte, North Carolina, 2015. Eric Garner, 43, Staten Island, New York, 2014. Michelle Cousseau, 50, Phoenix, Arizona, 2014. Akai Curley, 28, Brooklyn, New York, 2014. Gabriela Nevares, 22, Sacramento, California, 2014. Tamir Rice, 12, Cleveland, Ohio, 2014. Michael Brown, 18, Ferguson, Missouri, 2014. Tanisha Anderson, 37, Cleveland, Ohio, 2014. It didn't begin with George Floyd, and it didn't end with George Floyd. Say their names. Tony McCade, also known as Natosha McCade, 38, Tallahassee, Florida. Modesto Morero Destoreyes, 35, Morero, Louisiana. Reuben Smith, III, 35, North Little Rock, Arkansas. Jarvis Sullivan, 44, Yulee, Florida. Terrell Mitchell, 34, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Momodou Lamine Cisse, 34, Snellville, Georgia. Derek Thomas, 46, Fountain, Florida. David McT, 53, Louisville, Kentucky. Taquan Graves, 33, Brooklyn, New York. Carmel Flowers, 24, New Rochelle, New York. Louis Ruffin, Jr., 38, Orlando, Florida. Philip Jackson, 32, Tunnel Hill, Georgia. Michael Blue Thompson, 63, Lancaster, California. Rayshard Brooks, 27, Atlanta, Georgia. Kane Van Pelt, 23, Crown Point, Indiana. Donald Ward, 27, Phoenix, Arizona. Brandon Garner, 24, Beach Park, Illinois. Teron Jamal Boone, 31, Rosamond, California. Derek Canada, 43, Giddings, Texas. Cyclair Chong, 31, San Bernardino, California. Robert DeLong Harris, Veneta, Oklahoma. Rashid Matthew Mormon, 26, Roanoke, Virginia. Aloysius LaRue Kenton, 58, Little Rock, Arkansas. Kevin O. Ruffin, 32, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Kai Johnson, 31, Kansas City, Missouri. William Wade Burgess III, 27, St. Louis, Missouri. Joseph W. Denton, 35, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Paul Williams, Houston, Texas. Malik Conti, 36, Patterson, New Jersey. Errol Johnson, 31, Monroe, Louisiana. Richard Lewis Price, 49, San Diego, California. Hakeem Littleton, 20, Detroit, Michigan. Vincent DeMario Pruitt, 17, Austell, Georgia. Aaron Anthony Hudson, 31, Syracuse, New York. Darius Washington, 24, Chicago Heights, Illinois. Vincent Harris, 51, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Jeremy Southern, 22, Sacramento, California. Chester Jenkins, 60, Stockton, California. David Earl Brooks, Jr., 45, Roxborough, North Carolina. Darian Walker, 28, Detroit, Michigan. Ashton Broussard, 30, Houston, Texas. Amir Johnson, 30, Ventnor City, New Jersey. Julian Edward Roosevelt Lewis, 60, Sylvania, Georgia. Salacious Melvin, 22, Orlando, Florida. Jonathan Jefferson, Bossier City, LA, Louisiana. Raphael Javon Minifield, 29, Moreland, Georgia. Kendall Antron Watkins, 31, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Anthony McLean, 32, Pasadena, California. Adrian Jason Roberts, 37, Hope Mills, North Carolina. Trayford Pellerin, 31, Lafayette, Louisiana. Damian Lamar Daniels, 31, San Antonio, Texas. Julius Pay Kaye, 29, Houston, Texas. Name withheld by police, 43, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. Michael Anthony Harris, 44, Daytona Beach, Florida. Robert Earl Jackson, 54, Thorsby, Alabama. Dijon Kizzy, 29, Westmont, California. Dion K., 18, Washington, D.C. Stephen D. Smith, 33, Syracuse, New York. Major Carville Baldwin, 31, San Antonio, Texas. Steve Gilbert, 33, Delray Beach, Florida. Jonathan Darsall, 28, Moscow, Tennessee. Robert Coleman, 88, West Sacramento, California. Darrell Wayne Zemo, Sr., 55, San Antonio, Texas. Charles Eric Moses, Jr., 33, Brunswick, Georgia. Darian Bell, 28, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to stop there now because I can't take any more tonight, and we will continue this next Monday. Thank you.
And those were the names of
those who've been killed by the police.
Thank you. God bless their souls.
Thank you very much.
Until next Monday. Stay safe.